microphone. Feel free to write all over that. Yeah. Now we have fun.
I'm sorry?
Now we have fun.
Okay.
Okay, we get organized and we have fun. So I'll give you, we have about a minute left. So
Do I need to test the mic?
he'll set it. He'll be good if we're just talking here. So
Sorry.
so a couple of tips about radio. One, this means wrap it up. So 10 or 15 seconds, land the plane, give it back to me because I need it. If you hear music, I'm 30 seconds from commercial, so I need it back.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise, and I'll tell you about time cues for the monologue before that, but otherwise, go over the top with the presence because the voice shrinks it down. All people get is voice. So
Okay.
we tend to have a stronger over the top to get the passion out and also vocalize any emotions. Like, just it's radio theater because facial expressions and
Got
body
it.
language
It's
all stay in the booth if we don't vocalize. So overall, good talk radio is like listening into a conversation in a coffee shop. Like people are just
Okay.
want to hear people passionate about stuff, interesting. That makes good talk radio. So
Okay.
okay, so thanks for being here. Let's do it. And the volume is where it's plugged in, where the wire is plugged in,
Where?
underneath the desk. Follow the wire.
Oh. Yes, it's very loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Yeah.
I turned it down.
Okay. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. Welcome to our Education and Media Day that we do every Thursdays, and also welcome to the end of the Colorado legislative session. 4 months, lots of bills, lots of laws, lots of controversy, and we're really combining. Today is Education and Media Day, but I'll let you know because we're holistic, right? Like nobody can be just put in a box. I don't like to be put in a box. I hope you don't like to either. And so while we try to cover, these topics each day of the week, and as I've said before, we do it more for us than even for you because it's very easy to fall into some type of program, maybe business or politics, but we want to cover everything. So this is why we do that. But today, we're combining a lot of things. We're combining education and faith that we generally cover on Wednesdays and politics, which we generally cover on Tuesdays, because we have with us today the new legislative liaison and director of government relations for the Christian Home Educators of Colorado, Colleen Enos. We actually have had Carolyn Martin, who I've known for years. She was on the program early on when we launched over a year ago. She was on the program, and Colleen has stepped in to take over for Carolyn Martin. And we're going to be talking about homeschooling and Christian schooling in Colorado and how legislation is really impacting, whether you're a person of faith or not, whether, how it's impacting children, how it's impacting parents, how it's, it always ends up impacting our tax dollars, right? So all of those are things that Colleen oversees for the Colorado Christian Home Educators Association. So Colleen Enos, welcome to the Peak.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And if you really pay attention to things, you go, wait a minute, Enos, we had an Enos on at the beginning of the week, didn't plan this. Michael Enos with his Lifeponics hydroponic business was on our Business and Culture Day. And it turns out, Colleen, you're related By marriage, your brother and sister-in-law?
Yeah,
Is
that's
is
my
how it works?
brother-in-law. I
Okay.
am married to his brother.
Okay, so we didn't plan it, but it's the way it works out. It's what happens, when you're doing hyper local.
There you
Things get
go.
crossover. People get married. It's wonderful. So, what do we do here at the Peak? Why do we even exist? Well, unfortunately, and I think everybody's figured this out by now, no matter what your bent is that media has failed us. We journalists have forgotten how to be journalists. We went from serving the public to serving a corporate and governmental interests, and that is not what the media is supposed to be. How in the world can we hold accountability, be watchmen over a society when have special interests in our back pocket? And so, what do? Well, we decided to take a grassroots approach, and that's why we have citizen journalists, we have interns, we have always local topics, local guests, hyper local, supported by local business, talking about local topics, because when we watch over our own community, a lot of these things go away. It's very hard to lie to your neighbors for too long. And also, we shouldn't, right? We should care about our community. Not that we should lie anywhere, but we should really, really care about our community. And so we'd love you to get involved, including, and we'll be talking about this in a little bit, this wonderful program that we've designed, broadcast journalism program that's going to be in the D11 school system starting in August, the fall semester, open to all students in Colorado, including homeschoolers, to learn journalistic ethics, media vocational training, plugged into an internship here. And we're really, really excited about that. A shout out to our platinum sponsor, Springs Dentist, and Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. Our platinum sponsor couldn't really, do the program without you. The Summers are great friends. Springs Dentists are our family dentist. We were going there for many, many years. And then when they heard about this crazy idea, they said, we're in. We want to be sponsors of this. And they helped us launch the program over a year ago. So what are we doing here today? We're talking about Christian homeschooling and homeschooling in general and Christian schooling in Colorado and how legislation impacts that, including educating the community about getting involved in government and training up our children to engage the culture. And we have as our guest and co-host Colleen Enos, Legislative Liaison and Director of Government Relations for the Christian Home Educators of Colorado. Well, when we come back and we get into that, what I really want you to do, as I do in every program, is think about how you can get involved. Parents' rights issues have been big deal in this legislative session. And most of you are parents or grandparents or no parents or grandparents. We need to be protecting especially the First Amendment, the right to free speech, the right to worship as we want to and to raise our children as we want to. We'll be right back with The Peak. Okay, so we have 4 minutes, and then we'll get in. I left my...
How long?
This is a 4-minute break.
Right, okay.
But we're always on the live stream, so we're never, just so you know, we're never completely off mic. But as far as the broadcast, we are. You're good with your water?
I am.
Everything's good?
Yeah.
Leo the 14th.
Yep.
Do you want to comment on the Pope thing or leave that alone?
No, you're good to comment.
Okay.
I know nothing about the Pope.
Okay. But
Go crazy.
but when I do the D11 thing in the course, you can talk about it from a homeschooler's perspective. And I'm fine with you talking about, if you want to talk about concerns that, that homeschoolers may have getting into the system, if you want to, if you think that's important.
I don't.
Okay.
In regards to your class.
Okay. Okay. Well, then maybe talk positively that, this is a way for homeschoolers to take advantage of state money and get into programs and, Okay, we're back in a minute. Okay, that one. Okay. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. Today is Education and Media Day, but we're also crossing into faith. We're crossing into politics because we have with us as our guest and co-host for the hour, Colleen Enos, who is the Legislative Liaison and Director of Government Relations for the Christian Home Educators of Colorado. And yesterday was the final day of the 4-month legislative session under the Gold Dome. And so many things happened that involved, or some might say encroached, on the rights of children and parents in the state. And Colleen that's her job, is to stay on top of that. So we're going to be getting to that in the headline segment as well as through the rest of the program. But we cross over when there's a headline, there's a headline. So we want to announce, if you haven't heard already, the white smoke went up at the Vatican, and Catholics around the world have a new pope, and he's actually American. He's from America. His name is Robert Prevost. And what do we know about him? Not so much yet. And so there was, many concerns about, and not that, I'm not a Catholic, but I'll say Mazel Tov to all of the Catholics out there. And I know that, you're happy about this, that this leader of your church is there. But there were a lot of concerns, regarding the last pope and, what was he really representing the values of Catholicism, especially the conservatism. And so people are waiting to see what will become of this, pope and the policies. And so, again, congratulations. Not much to say on that, but wanted to let you know that that's going on. He's taken the name Pope Leo the 14th. Okay, now we're going to break some news because this is very exciting to us. You've heard us talking about the fact that we have an internship program here, and that this has grown into an invitation that came to us from Michael Gall, the superintendent of D11, to teach a journalistic ethics and media vocational training program in the D11 school system. And so we are doing that and moving forward in that. That will be at the Wasson campus, D11 Wasson campus, starting in August. And as we're developing out the curriculum for that and putting it all together, one of the things that we needed to do and all curriculum is approved by the school board, and all classes are approved by the school board. And so last night, the D11 school board met and had its, second or third reading, and we got approved by D11 to be teaching this course. So that's very, very exciting to us, and I hope that it is to you also. If you have students, if you are a student or you're a parent or grandparent of students who want to get into journalism, broadcast journalism, the internship will absolutely give them what they need to have more. I believe at the end of doing this course that they'll have more practical experience to break into media, to get jobs in media, than people who have a 4-year degree. I'm not saying that they will be as trained in the proficiency of what you would learn, but the actual practicality of working with us to put out a news show every day is real deal. And that's happening here. And I would say this, especially since it's happening in high school, they won't be incurring any debt like college courses. They will actually, though, we're getting it accredited through Pikes Peak State College to get college credit as well as high school credit for those who are in this career training course, is that we're teaching ethics and we're teaching how to communicate. And so I think everybody needs to know how to do research, how to think critically, and how to communicate effectively and ethically. I think that's everyone, or definitely everybody in a career, every business owner. So what a great thing to learn in high school. So even if they're not sure whether they want to get specifically into journalism, there's a lot of careers that need this and use the skills of a journalist on a daily basis. And so I would encourage them to get involved. For all the information on that, and also how to register, and also if you would like to donate to our nonprofit educational foundation. Our part in the partnership is developing the curriculum, publishing the curriculum, and administering the internship program here at Salem. Is to donate to that. We would appreciate that, as we're a nonprofit doing that, but especially getting the word out to students and to parents of students. They can go to our website, thepeak.news, and go to the D11 CTE link, learn all about the course and how to register there. So, Colleen,
Yes.
Comment to this as far as homeschoolers in the state of Colorado, because they can take this course too, as well as any student in Colorado, but homeschoolers getting involved in the public school, how does that work exactly here in Colorado?
Well, I think that if there are, especially high school students that are interested in journalism or career paths that would benefit from those skills, it sounds like a good opportunity to at least check into and maybe take advantage of.
And homeschoolers, do you see homeschoolers that are, part-time, rather than doing like a traditional homeschool co-op or enrichment, actually plugging into one of the school districts?
We have a lot of homeschoolers that take part in co-ops or certain programs that districts put on, specifically reaching out to homeschoolers. So that's a pretty common way to meld those two things together. And because we have the freedom to do that in the state, they can do that, right? They
Right.
can put together whatever kind of educational program they want.
So homeschoolers, you want vouchers. I know we do that. We're a homeschool family too. We just want the money, right, to buy the materials. You don't get that in the state, but the money can come into the public school systems and have your student there. And also, our course doesn't take up like your whole part-time thing. So we're also talking about if while you're doing this, there's maybe certain courses that maybe mom, dad, you don't like teaching, you could pick up another course there while you're there. So all of that to say, go learn more about this. And we'd love to have lots and lots of students learning how to do this and helping us here at the Peak cover the area. So last headline is, and it's a big one, is the legislative session is over as of yesterday here in Colorado. Bills that have been sent to the governor, that still has to be, will he sign them or just let them go into law without signing them? So, there's still that wonderment there. But Colleen, out of all the bills that were put forth, the ones that got through, what were the ones that you were paying most attention to during this 2025 legislative session under the Gold Dome?
Well, most recently, the big bill that affects all families and parents in the state of Colorado, as well as homeschoolers, anyone, was HB 1312. Legal protections for transgender individuals was the title of the bill. And there was all kinds of changes to that bill, all kinds of outreach. It was clearly a threatening bill to parents, to families. And so we paid a ton of attention to that. Also 1309 that just went through, affecting people's health insurance, mandating coverage, putting it into law for gender affirming care. So these were huge issues. It seems like the legislature really focused on transgender gender affirming topics throughout this session. So we paid lots of attention to that.
So this bill was first approved by the House, went to the Senate. That's where there was a lot of protest and discussion on that. Things were stripped out, and then it was sent back and it was approved. So what was pulled out? What's still in there?
So originally they had a section in the bill that was called coercive control, that defined that if parents misgendered or dead named their own children, that could be used against them in custody decisions. So obviously a total infringement on parental rights, like monitoring your speech in your own home. And that could be used to determine whether or not you got custody of kids or how much time you got to spend with them. That was pulled out.
By the Senate, okay.
That was pulled out by the Senate. There was also another section about public accommodations where any place, basically, besides your home or the church that you go to would make misgendering and dead naming a part of the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. That specific part was pulled out, although there are other things that replaced that weren't great.
Okay, so the one that you still object to the one that's going to the governor.
Yes, absolutely. Veto.
Okay, so check it out. If you disagree with this, there's still, time to try to reach out to the governor regarding this. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak. We're here with Colleen Enos of the Christian Home Educators of Colorado. When we come back, educating our community to be involved in government. Okay, this is a 3.5-minute break.
I'm sorry?
This is a 3.5-minute break.
3.5 minutes.
So you can get your notes together there and things and
to
prepare. So just as far as time cues, so I'll tell you about that because you're going to monologue through this. If you do come up short, I'll ask a follow-up question, but try to fill the space. You'll have about 4 minutes. So I'll end up giving you, after I introduce you, 3, 2, 1, and this means 30 seconds.
Okay.
So that rather than wrap it up, so you actually have time to put a final chapter on it.
Okay.
So you'll pace yourself through it. You'll realize after a couple cues where you're at and how to self-edit as you go. But that's your challenge. Is
Okay.
what do I fit in approximately 4 minutes? And
So you were saying you were okay with me quoting scripture?
yeah. Fine.
Okay,
You can be you. I just want you to know your audience. But
more inclusive.
you're
Gotcha.
a citizen. You're here. You're the guest. Say whatever. Just no F-bombs and to lose our FCC license. Other than that, you can say whatever you want. That's our only.
Not really
As long
my
as the
style.
7 words that lose. The big thing in broadcast is don't lose the license. Other than that, this is our show. It's not even Salem's. We pay for the airtime. So
Okay.
say what you want.
Okay.
Feel free. But again, just know the audience. And what was the last? I think that's it. Yeah, just keep the energy up and make sure to get through your points before the time's up.
I mean, I tried to make them kind of succinct. So.
Yeah. Oh, when I give you the time cues, if you do a little chin nod or a blink, or just so I know that you got the cue. That was the other thing. Just let me know.
Okay.
This is why we like having people in the studio on the phone. It's very hard to have this nice rhythm, nonverbal stuff. Even though people who tune into they get some behind the scenes stuff. They get to education, and especially on days when we might have a technical difficulty, it gets a little crazy at the breaks. But today seems good. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Peak News. It's Education and Media Thursday as we end our broadcast week. We have with us for the hour Colleen Enos, Legislative Liaison and Director of Government Relations for Christian Home Educators of Colorado. So we're talking about homeschooling and Christian schooling in Colorado, specifically legislation applying to that. And so now Colleen is going to be sharing with us the truth. No, we don't lie to you here. We give you the straight stuff so that you can make decisions for yourself and your family. Colleen is talking about educating our community so that we will be involved in government. Colleen Enos.
So I just want to say something that I'm super passionate about is that every single person of faith and everyone in the community needs to know what is going on. They need to be talking about legislation. They need to be talking about politics. And I hear a lot of conversation about, no, we don't talk about politics. We don't talk about, religion. We don't talk about the hard topics. But yes, we need to talk about the hard topics. And the reason we need to talk about the hard topics is because we're actually talking about morality. We're talking about things that are evil, things that are good. And those are reflected in our legislation, especially what's been coming out in the last legislative session that I was a part of. There's a great quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer: "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." And I just want to challenge our audience here to make your voice be heard. Because what happens is in our state government, if they don't hear anything from the people of the community, they assume you agree. And like we like to say in speech and debate, silence is consent. So if you do not address an issue, it is assumed you agree with it, you don't have a problem with it. So Scripture tells us to speak up, that we are to speak the truth in love. That's from Ephesians 4:14 through 15, that we should no longer be children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the trickery of men, in the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into all things into him who is the head, Christ. So I'm a Christian, and that commands me to speak the truth in love. And I think people have this idea that we shouldn't speak truth, that speaking truth is hurtful, but it is not. Sometimes it is the most loving thing we can do. So people of faith in our community and every person, we need to be speaking up. We need to be taking action because they are assuming at the state level of our government that you agree with whatever they are doing because you don't have an opinion. So it's time for us to stop walking in fear of people, walking in fear of other people and what they think of us. Instead of I hear all the time, we shouldn't be political. Politics is dirty. Like, let's not be political. But I have to tell you, if you're not political, who is? It's the people who are promoting things that you don't agree with. So if you don't stand up, take a stand, let your voice be heard, then the culture, the side that you don't want to have a voice, they're the ones that are the loudest. Those are the ones that are going to influence the culture. So we need to stop waiting until we're threatened in a huge way. We need to speak the truth. We need to get involved. That's the whole point. That's why we're here, to influence this culture for good, to be salt and light, to let our voices be heard.
Do you think that people really believe that, or is it sort of blowing smoke to sort of be lazy, to say, well, we shouldn't be involved in politics? Do you think they really believe that?
I absolutely think people really believe that. In fact, I hear it all the time. We don't want to get involved. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Like, as Christians, we don't want conflict. We need to stop being afraid of conflict. Jesus wasn't afraid of conflict. We shouldn't be afraid of conflict. Sometimes we have to engage in the conflict.
Okay, well, I think it's mixed with laziness, at least a little bit. I think it's an excuse. I think pastors use it too. Everybody, we need to get involved, regardless of your background, regardless of your faith or non-faith. This is our community. We need to watch over it. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We'll be right back after this short news break. Great. How's it going for you?
Good.
Good? Okay, now this is
I just keep putting on my reading glasses.
This is the long segment. This is segment 4. So you can review the questions there. I just want to make you aware, and I know what you meant by it, but the way that you said those people you don't want to have a voice. Like they'll be
said it wrong.
Right. So do you want to clarify that when we come back?
Say it again.
I
wanted to say, like, people who are espousing different values than you are,
right,
are the ones that are.
But it came out of the people that you don't want to have a voice, or are the ones that are politicking.
Yeah, please ask me and let me clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we could potentially cut that out of the, if there's a creative way to cut around it, since you didn't mean it. I know you didn't mean it, but it's the way it came out.
Yes.
So.
No. Please let me clarify. That sounds
okay.
That sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
Am I on this? Oh, here I am. That would be a better way to say it. People who don't share your values.
Do we know yet about James, can you, the rant, the topic and length?
You're talking about Senate Bill 86, and then it's 240.
240, so it's a little long.
Yeah.
Okay, Senate Bill, what is that about?
Social media
Okay.
stuff.
Okay, and try to remind me to punch the button. You can be doing this. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. It's Education and Media Day. We're focusing in on education and faith and politics because we have Colleen Enos, Legislative Liaison and Director for Government Relations for the Christian Home Educators of Colorado, and we're going to be learning more about Colleen and what she does and how you can get involved and what the Christian Home Educators of Colorado does. I want to give a shout out to one of our Peak Gold sponsors, John Graham Homes, taking the drama out of your home buying and selling experience while saving you money too. John Graham Homes here in Colorado. John is actually also the president of our nonprofit board, and he was on the D49 school board 2 terms and was the president there. And so John, very involved in what we're doing here. And so if you're buying or selling a home, please reach out to John. He's got really special programs there too, and has been a real blessing to us here at the Peak. So Colleen, before I ask you the question, we run, if you listen to the show, you may not notice this, but every single segment is a different communication, what I call modality. It's a different way of communicating information. And I like challenging our guests like that. And it makes for a really fun show. But also when you say to someone, hey, just talk for 4 minutes, things come out. So you wanted to make a slight correction to something that you said in the last segment.
Yeah, what I meant was, if you're not speaking up, then people who don't share your values and your worldview, those are the people that are going to make their voices heard, and yours won't be heard at all.
Now, it came out of those voices, you people you don't want to have a voice, and
that's not what I meant.
And this is something, by the way, and I didn't get into this when I was talking in the headline segment, and I was going to do it today, but I didn't get there. But when we got approved by the D11 school board, There was one, we got a 6-1 vote. There's one of the school board members who had questions, and everything that she said is valid. And we want to deal with all of those things. And she just wasn't comfortable with it. But one of them was, you guys have an ideology, or conservatives, are all students going to, get a fair shake with this? And I assured the board, and I will assure this board member, that yes, absolutely. And this is something that I guess I don't know that liberals understand this as much as conservatives, just overall, not to the person, but that free speech to us is more important than what we think. And so we don't, oppress people or try to cancel people for their speech. And so when Colleen said that, I knew she didn't mean it. And so thank you for clarifying that. Okay, let's move on. Colleen, you're a homeschool mother, 8 children.
Yes.
Children.
Yes.
You're a grandmother now.
I am.
Now you're the legislative director for Christian Home Educators of Colorado. Give us your backstory. How did this all come about?
Yeah, my background is in I have a business degree from CSU. I became a certified paralegal after that. Got married, started having lots of kids. I have 8 children, and I have 4 grandchildren, and number 5 is on the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be making an appearance later this month. So I homeschooled all of my kids, all 8. And so I started that in 94, I believe. And my oldest is 35. My youngest are twins. They're 20. They just graduated last May from high school. So with this now seemingly abundant time, right? I am now CHEC's Director of Government Relations. I also have a background in coaching speech and debate, which I did for 17 years while homeschooling. And that just kind of whet my appetite for politics and what's going on in government all across the nation. So now I'm super passionate about finding out what's happening in our state, protecting homeschoolers and parents, and standing up for them, I guess.
So the legislative session under the Gold Dome ended yesterday. I'm sure you breathed a slight sigh of relief.
Thank goodness.
It's always rigorous, and I know a lot of the House district reps, and it's been crazy for them as it always is.
Yes.
What major legislation in the 2025 session impacts children and parents the most, and specifically things regarding public education and homeschooling realms? I know that wasn't such a big topic like it was in previous sessions, but since you are tasked with monitoring legislation that regards specifically education, well, what concerns you? What happened?
Yeah, I think the big pieces of legislation I was paying attention to definitely was House Bill 1312, and also
it's a transgender protection,
right? Legal protections for transgender individuals, which started out one way and morphed into something less horrible, but still not great. So that was a concern. We paid attention to that, testified in committees, watched that throughout the Senate. And then when it went back to the House for concurrence, pretty concerning bill. Another piece is 1309, which they ended the day debating on in the House last night, which has to do with health insurance covering gender affirming care and writing that into statute so that is mandated for all Colorado insurance to cover all gender affirming care. So Colorado, you're going to be paying for that in your health insurance. So that's going to be a part of it. There was another bill, I believe it was Senate Bill 183, which had to do with covering abortion and gender affirming care with our Medicaid program here in Colorado, and without regards to whether or not you're a citizen here in the United States. And there was actually the Speaker of the House was one of those sponsors to that bill. And she actually said that it was going to save Colorado money because averted births were going to be cheaper. Because I guess, dead kids are cheaper than live kids. But That's actually what she said.
Yeah, that's real short-term thinking. I mean, even just from a business or governmental standpoint, there'll be taxpayers and contributing to the community, and they like to spend the tax money, here. So, I mean, that type of thinking, yes, of course. Enough said.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. So, from your position with the Christian Home Educators of Colorado, how do you think we should go about maximizing our children's education and parents' rights when we are in this environment where the legislators who have the majority seem to be coming against it all the time?
Yeah, I think we need to, first of all, if you're a parent, you need to pay very close attention to what's happening in your child's school. If you're homeschooling, you're going to know what's going on with them each day, but there are so many parents that you just don't know, right? If you're not with them, how can you know what's happening with them all the time? So I think it's super important that you talk to your kids about things that are happening in school, that you teach them not to keep secrets from you, because there are those educators and schools that do say, don't tell your parents, unfortunately. So your kids need to know that they shouldn't be keeping secrets from you. And I think it's important to affirm them as who they were made. God made children, male and female. I believe they were made in the image of God in the Imago Dei, which means they're important, they're special, and they're not a mistake. So I think we need to really reaffirm our kids' identity. This is who you are. This is a good thing. This is a positive thing. We're excited that you're here. You are a blessing. I think that's very important to do that. Also, we need to step up as people of faith. We need to step up. We need to get involved. The only way you turn around legislation that is being promoted that you don't agree with is if you get involved and if you run for office. There has to be people willing to do that. They have to be willing to run for office and not looking at other people to do that. So otherwise, it's just going to continue this way.
Okay, finishing up, we got just a couple minutes left. Tell us about CHEC, the Colorado Christian Home Educators of Colorado. What resources and services do you provide, and how do people get involved?
CHEC is a fantastic organization, and their mission statement is CHEC envisions families honoring Jesus Christ by embracing home discipleship that is Christ-centered, parent-directed, and free from government control. And I would just say homeschooling it's doable for anybody who wants to do it. CHEC can hook you up with resources. They can support you. You can go to CHEC.org, join the Homeschool Freedom Team. They put on homeschooling summits. But there's a huge conference coming up in June 12th through the 14th, the Rocky Mountain Homeschool Conference. And I would encourage you, if you're interested at all, you want to learn more about homeschooling, go to RockyMountainHomeschoolConference.com and sign up. We're going to have speakers, curriculum, resources, and all kinds of help for you. It's at the Denver Marriott Tech Center. And again, June 12th through 14th. It's going to be super helpful to you. Okay,
more information about that at chec.org. Final thoughts as a homeschool mom of 8 children, some encouragement to those who have maybe been thinking about it, about doing it, or those who are doing it and thinking about stopping. What are your words to them as we finish this segment?
There are so many resources that are available today for people who choose to homeschool their kids. They're everywhere. CHEC is a great resource, but there are co-ops, all kinds of things you can do, curriculum made for all different types of learners. I would just say it's easier now than ever before to do it. So check it out.
Okay, you're listening to The Peak. When we come back with Colleen Enos of the Christian Home Educators of Colorado, we'll be doing the final segment talking about training our children to engage the culture. You're listening to The Peak, and we'll be right back. Excellent. Good segment. Good. Okay. So now we'll have about 4 minutes on this last one. So we didn't talk about questions. What would you like? Or
tell me again.
Sort of like training our children. We're on segment 5, training our children. So we can do like a why and a how question if you want. Why do we need to train our children? And then what are some, sort of baby steps to go about doing that?
Yep.
Give them sort of an easy on ramp
Yep.
if they're not doing it. I mean,
I can try.
My-
This is 10 minutes.
no, this is all you have about 4 minutes
Thank
of, yeah. This is, because we have another segment that we throw to. We have a Jim Miller,
Gotcha.
who he's our Andy Rooney, if you remember that from 60 Minutes.
I do.
He's our grumpy, sarcastic
He's your
guy.
grumpy guy.
Guy at the end of the news. Yeah, he's our everyman with no filter he ran for mayor and city council and we launched the show with him. I just saw him. I said, this guy's gold on the radio, and he's built quite a following for himself through it because he's unfiltered.
That's funny.
So, okay. So I'll ask why we do it, how we do it. Yeah. Like I don't do it as much because I do this now, but I used to go, especially during COVID, to all meetings, FEC, all these things, all these political meetings with my children. And like, we're the only children in the room. Like people are, the average age at these meetings, like 80. And people are just not bringing their children to these things. They don't. My children try to, at the youth group, get them involved, and like we're not raising them up to understand that they need to take over and be
They do.
ready.
In the legislature, when the only time you can let your voice be heard is in committee hearings, when kids come and testify, they are so impressed and pay so
Really?
much attention.
Okay, so bring that up.
Yeah.
But I'll set up the, come on, parents. I know they might be bored, but they might seem like they're bored.
But what a great
Yeah.
lesson, right?
But yeah, it was so weird. I mean, maybe there'd be like a mom with a young kid because they couldn't get childcare. But I mean, I'm all 6 of mine, in the row, paying attention, and so they know
Yep.
about this stuff. So
They got to be out there.
But-
That's what we were doing in speech and debate. Teach you how to speak. Teach you how to engage with culture.
okay. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And we're finishing up this Education and Media Day with Colleen Enos of the Christian Home Educators of Colorado, talking about training our children to engage the culture. I was talking with Colleen at the break. And by the way, we stream on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go to the Peak News on there. And if you're interested, it's really, radio on video, but we're talking behind the scenes. You can see what radio's going on. But what I was saying to her, because she has more children than I do. She has 8. I have 6. I only have 6 homeschool children. But 5 are still at home. So, that's still going on with me. But, when we would, travel around, and then especially when we got here and got involved, we would go to these meetings, these political meetings, especially during COVID. There was a lot, when the people were getting angry and starting to come out, and we would be like the only family there. Everybody else, and, sort of sarcastic, but the average age is like 80 in the room. And, and maybe some people with 1 or 2 children because they couldn't get childcare, but we bring our children, whether they wanted it or not, have them sit there because they're inheriting this, they are the future, right? And so, Colleen, talk about first, why it is so important to train up our children to do these things, learn about policy, stuff that most people find really boring.
It's so important to get your kids involved. They need to know that they can do it. Number one, they don't need to be intimidated by getting involved. But I have to say, after being in this legislative session, whenever there was a child, a young person who came to testify in favor or in opposition to any bill, every legislator sat up and took notice.
Got off their phones.
That's right. They paid very close attention. They wanted to respect those kids. So if there's a bill you're passionate about, teach your kids how to do this. This is really important stuff. So we want them to engage the culture because, frankly, if you're not teaching your kids how to engage the culture, The culture is teaching them what they should think and what they should do. So you're going to have to educate them. You're going to have to talk to them about drugs, fentanyl. You're going to have to talk to them about pornography. You're going to have to talk to them about transgender issues, because if you don't, the culture is going to be educating them and not you. And you want that role.
So what are some baby steps for people who, because parents tend to default, well, they don't want to go, they don't want to do it. It's so much easier to not drag them there. I'm not like that. I get in the car, but
You're a dragger.
but and hopefully they'll like that, at some point in the future. But what are some baby steps for those who have completely, they're disconnected themselves maybe, but getting the whole family involved in this so that we know the issues and get active?
So I have a couple suggestions for you. The first is teach your kids how to speak. Teach them how to introduce themselves. Teach them how to look other people in the eye and say, "Good morning, Mr. Goldman. Good morning." Teach them how to do that. That is a lost skill. Kids don't even look up when you talk to them. Practice that at home. Other things you can do is role play. What would you do if this situation happened and someone brought this up? What would you say to them? Role play at home. Ask them the question, have them answer. Do it again. Practice. We all know that we feel more comfortable when we practice doing things that are hard. And also get your kids involved in speech and debate, because it's going to teach them how to speak. It's going to teach them how to grapple with arguments, how to make arguments, going to teach them research skills. These things are super necessary for the society we live in today. They have to learn, and you're the best teacher as a parent, so you teach your kids.
Yeah, all of my children, everybody said, public speaking is the thing that people are most scared about. My children all can get up in front, talk. It's great. Do it. Colleen Enos from the Christian Home Educators of Colorado. Thanks so much for being on The Peak.
Thank you.
And for everything from them, go to chec.org. And now, Jim Miller, Just a Guy, and The Peak Rants, ranting about Senate Bill 86 about social media controls.
I'm Jim Miller. I'm a Marine, a father, a husband, getting old. I'm kind of grumpy. I'm overworked. I'm overtaxed. I ran for mayor. I'm just a guy, and this is The Peak Rants. All right, so what do we got going on
Both.
right now?
I didn't know whether it was 4 and 5.
Senate Bill 86.
Okay. That'll pick up.
Some interwebby.
So
Looks like it has like a pretty decent kind
Here,
of
just
setup,
copy it.
right? Something to regulate or make sure
You can
people
listen to
can't
this.
sell guns or drugs or sexually exploit children. We know I'm the biggest advocate for making sure pedos ain't out and about exploiting minors. So that sounds cool and good and neat. But it seems like this is quite a convoluted setup the way it is. And if they wanted to really be about it, they could be about it and make sure none of these predators are up on the websites and that kind of thing pretty easily, I think. I don't think you need a Senate bill for all this stuff. There's a lot of
I wish we had known. Okay.
extra things in there. So Governor Polis Sausage vetoed this one, saying it would violate a lot of freedom. This is the same Governor Polis Sausage who sat there and violated our gun rights, right? With stupid taxes, some extra stuff, a whole bunch of extra rules, right? Shall not be infringed, but he sure likes the freedoms that he likes, right? So I have to give the broken clock that it was right at least once that day by probably vetoing this very convoluted, very, very sketchy setup. Look, I'm 100% for keeping predators off the internet, away from kids. 100%. That needs to be done. It should just be the standard. I don't think we need a Senate bill with a bunch of convoluted, nonsensical kind of garbage built in there, shuffled around. So, but it looks like it might be overturned anyways with him vetoing it regardless, it's looking like. But this one, if you don't have like a doctorate, just reading this almost gives you a freaking migraine. So anything like that gets too complicated, I'm not going to lie to you, it gets convoluted. Questions of the answer of the question that goes partway with the worksheet or some nonsensical garbage. Look, I always say shove it off to the side because, this stuff's not that complicated. Know right from wrong and do the right thing. That's always the wrong time to do the right thing. So just do the right thing, and that's all you got to do for any of these Senate bills. Not all this extra political talk and executive speak built into it. Remember, if you want it better, be better. I'm Jim Miller. I'm just a guy, and this is the Peak Rants on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. We'll be right back.
Okay. That's Jim.
He's entertaining.
So I just have a 2-minute close, and then we're going to move to another studio.
Okay.
Did not know that, but we will be doing that.
It's going to stay overridden because the House didn't override it. The Senate did.
Okay.
So it's dead.
No, it's off. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode and week of The Peak. So happy to be saying the quiet stuff out loud over and over again, and hope it inspires you to do the same. I'll let you know in a minute what's coming up next week, but I want to do a shout out. You've heard the ad for Dad's Donuts. You just heard Vine and Wheel. Well, this is part of the Altitude Hospitality Group that's also Trainwreck downtown and the Pinery and other establishments. And the place that was known as the Pinery North is now reopening as the Homestead, a new culinary destination in Colorado Springs where community and cuisine come together. I've been up there to see the build. It's like an upscale food court. And so that's going to be opening on Sunday, the 18th at 9633 Prominent Point. So check that out. And there'll be a lot of restaurants in there and others that will be opening. Also, want to encourage you, if you have a student or you are a student who's interested in breaking into journalism or just learning about this craft of researching and critical thinking and good communication, ethical communication, please sign up if you're going to be a junior or senior in this upcoming academic year. Join us at the D11 Wasson campus as we will be teaching a broadcast journalism career and tech education course there. For more information about the course and how to register, go to our website, thepeak.news, and look for the D11 CTE link. And please spread the word so we can get as many students in as possible. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we were just approved by the D11 school board last night. Well, we're off on Fridays, but Dirk Hobbs is here from 3 to 4 p.m. on The Answer with the Business Digest Weekly. And on Monday, Business and Culture Monday, we have Lynn Granger, President and CEO of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association, of course, talking about the present and future of the oil and gas industry in our state. Stick around now for the Larry Elder Show coming up next here, and check out our 230, 240 podcasts on thepeak.news. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and with your involvement, we'll say it even louder and louder for such a time as this. Have a great weekend. Shalom. Okay. Good show. Thank you.
I hope so. Hope it,
It was. And Enos Week here on the
evidently.